You don't think.
Where is the drum
I
roll?
am Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. We quick pitch today. We do have the new state representative from the 83rd District, Jamie Flick, on. Thank you for coming, Jamie.
My pleasure.
We're going to talk about his decision to run for office. I want to talk to you
What
too.
the hell were you thinking? That's the first.
I
Sure.
want to talk to you too, like the realization after you win. I'm always fascinated at that moment because it's like, oh, we're doing this.
Yep.
Like it's a thing. So
Sure.
I want to dive into that too, just the whole political side of it, because you said you're new to it as well.
Correct.
Jamie, this is going to be completely underwhelming. We start every show off the same way. Mark, how are you feeling today?
I've watched the show, so I have.
You're already.
I'm one of your people.
You're one of like
one of
six.
dozens.
We have
Yes.
dozens. We have dozens of lawyers. I'm good today. Well, you know, as we were just talking before we got on the air, Jamie's from South Williamsport. South boys and girls play today. Baseball, softball. The Toursville boys play today. So this afternoon, I will be heading towards Wilkes-Barre to watch a game. So that has me pumped. The weather's good. They're gonna, we don't have any rain, so that has me pumped. And I'm excited about this. I'm not a big political guy, as you know. I mean, we talk politics, but we're not like dyed-in-the-wool politicians. But Jamie's a fascinating story. And as we went through this, and as I've talked to him, before, not just today, before, and I just want to get out his story. And I think what he brings to politics, I think he's a breath of fresh air. Is just kind of it brings hope, though, to what because if you don't know the story when you hear the story. So I'm kind of excited to delve into it, all the aspects of his campaign, his election, what it means, and all that stuff. So, and no one ever comments on the show. And we already got a comment. So
I have one.
Look at that. So I'm pumped. This is pumped. We're a little big time here. We have an elected official.
You're jazzed up.
I'm ready.
I'm excited to have a second Republican in the room, to be completely honest.
I
don't want to get, left, right of the fence, but it is nice to have someone on my side. Jamie, before we get too far gone, because this show will go off the rails quickly, let people know, 30 seconds, who you are, kind of your background, and then we'll dive into how this whole thing started.
I want to do a correction first for Jeff.
We've already
I'm not the state rep yet. We have to get through the November election. So I won the primary, which was a tight battle. You could say I'm presumptive because I don't have any opposition in November. So there's nobody else on the ballot.
So if you
to be technical,
nobody,
that's correct. But to be technical, I'm not elected till November. So I just want to correct that.
that is fair.
My name's, as you said, Jamie Flick, born and raised in the Nippenose Valley, went to Jersey Shore School District. I got a bunch of kids. Almost all of them have graduated from South. One just graduated Friday. I got one more to go. That's now a senior. Own a software company on Reach Road. So there's my 30 seconds.
Have you ever taken a sip at the Nip?
I have been to the Nip many times. Yes, I grew up between the Nippenose and the Breeze Inn, so two great watering holes.
You're close to Jersey Shore, there, aren't you?
Sure.
The line is right in there.
Yep.
So, but you were on the south side part of the
No,
line.
I went to Jersey Shore.
Oh, you went to Jersey Shore. Your kids just went to South.
Correct.
I understand. Okay.
That makes sense.
So, I mean, okay, well, here's your background. This is why you're fascinating to me. You're a Republican. You're a Central Pennsylvania Republican. You have 6 kids. 2 of them are black.
Mm-hmm.
And you are, which is just, would you say atypical?
Yeah, you could say in Central Pennsylvania.
Central Pennsylvania Republican. So from your social world and views is very atypical of a Central Pennsylvania Republican. How did the party respond to that?
That's a pretty dynamic question. There hasn't not been much response from the party, and to be fair, I never ran for office before. Not dog catcher, not anything. So I'm not a party person. I'm not a committee person of the Republican Party. So the Democrats and the Republicans each county has a committee. I've never approached them prior to running until just weeks before. So really no response. But I would say for my 6 kids, they're very diverse. And 2 of them I adopted or became legal guardian from inner city Brooklyn. Right. Even when I was a young kid, my parents had fresh air kids, which is very common around here. You bring kids from the inner city. So I had done that as a kid. And
were they Yankee fans or Met fans?
They're Knicks fans. They're not big baseball fans.
Okay, well, that's better than being a Mets fan.
So I just followed suit.
Knicks fan is kind of tough.
That is tough.
They've had a tough go.
Yeah. So I followed suit with my parents. I became a fresh air parent. I had the kids since they were 5 or 6. And eventually, the mother's fascinating. She's a teacher, has her master's degree, but they live in such a neighborhood where they need to get out of this gang violence type city. So I adopted or became legal guardian a couple years ago. So yeah, not typical.
And it's
but
two brothers.
two brothers.
Right.
Yep. Correct.
And now the one is graduated high school and
Yep.
is in
He's at boot camp in Fort
the
Benning.
Air
so
Force, or is it?
he's in the Army.
Army.
Yep.
Okay, I knew it was
So
one.
he will graduate July 28th. So we'll be down for that ceremony. And the other one will be a senior this fall at South Williamsport.
People locally, for people who I think we all know of the Fresh Air program. Back in the day, Mark Graves, who was the point guard at Williamsport, was originally a Fresh Air kid, very similar to your kids.
There you go.
And ended up. I think same thing, legal guardian.
Yep.
And just stayed in. And I don't know what year he showed up in Williamsport officially, but he was the point guard on the state championship team.
So very successful program. What I love about it most is there's no money involved. You don't get paid to do it. You don't get paid to be a legal guardian. You know what I mean? It's not like the foster program, which has some issues. So the best programs, and I hope to take this to Harrisburg, are the ones that cost nothing. You know what I mean? Don't cost the taxpayers. It's ones that come from the heart. So.
Yeah. So this was a good intro because one of the first questions I wanted to ask you was the process of deciding to run for office.
Sure.
And the reason I think the intro works well is a businessman, 6 kids, family, a job, life.
Yeah.
How did this even come into play given what you just told us about?
Well, I'll tell you, Jeff, what I've told everybody when I went to meet with the meet and greets and the constituents that you meet with and the groups that you talk to. The quick story is I was on vacation a year and a half ago in Delaware, and I had a stroke, a pretty severe stroke. I'd lost use of my left arm. My girlfriend, who's a paramedic, rushed me to the hospital in Delaware outside of Dover, and they did a brain scan.
Loved her more than right
So
now.
absolutely. So they did a brain scan, they did some imaging, and the neurologist comes out 2 hours later, and he puts his hand on my shoulder. He's like, "Mr. Flick, you have severe brain damage." And it's right then where light went off. I thought, I am finally qualified to run for politics, and go to Harrisburg. And that's a true story. So at that point, I thought, you know what? I've owned my company for 35, 36 years. Let's do something different. Not that politics is going to be stress-free at all. But yeah, so at that point, I sort of decided, let's make this a project. I'm a numbers guy. The software industry is numbers. And I thought, let's map out a game plan of how I can win.
Did you know, like, state rep 83rd district did you know, like, was that the original plan, or did you kind of look at the landscape and try? Okay.
That was it.
You
Not
didn't think
commissioner, not dog catcher,
no.
not little league president.
That
No,
job sucks.
that's
You don't
a
want that
brutal job.
That job.
I had that job once, but
Oh.
so state rep was the job I was after, where I thought I could make the most difference.
So from the political, your opponent was Ann Kaufman.
Well, originally it was Jeff Wieland. So I ran against Jeff, came out against Jeff. He dropped out a couple weeks after I came out. So it wasn't an open seat. People have that misconception that it was open. It became open once Jeff decided to drop out. And then, yes, Miss Kaufman was my opponent, Republican opponent.
So all the who's who of the Republican Party endorsed her.
Correct.
Nobody, I mean, officially, this is not hyperbole. You had no official endorsements, correct?
No official
from the
political endorsements.
Yes,
but from welders and farmers and
no
nurses, lots of
politicians
endorsements.
endorsed
No, thank God.
You had the people's endorsement, essentially.
So why do you think that was? Why do you think the party, the elected officials of the party endorsed her?
Wow. You'd have to ask them. She was with the party. She's co-chair for the Republican Party. So she's been involved with party politics for a long time. She worked directly for Tom Marino and then for Fred Keller. Great background, well qualified. So I think the fact that she worked for, Congressman Keller and Congressman Marino, it's sort of, you would think, if Jeff leaves here, would you endorse him if he went to get a job and used your name to say, "Hey, Mark"?
Depends what the
maybe.
job is. Depends. Some jobs, yes.
So
dog catcher, probably.
Right. So it made sense that her boss is going to endorse her, certainly. And then with his political connections, I think more than likely, I don't want to speak for Congressman Keller, that he just reached out to his friends and political allies, and they just kept stacking them up. And I was fine with that. I mean, the politicians have a rating of what, 38%
Right.
versus farmers of 98%.
We talked about is an endorsement what it used to be. That wasn't just with us. Was that with
we had talked
with
we
Jason?
brought him online. It wasn't Jason. I'm forgetting the name now. I apologize. But we
yes, I remember who it was.
But we had talked about with a lot of these, regardless of left or right, what's the weight of an endorsement and what is the value of it in the year of 2022 as opposed to 2010.
I completely agree. I don't think it's as valuable as it used to be. It can hurt. People are tired of politicians. So getting political endorsements, I don't see it as much of an advantage.
Yeah.
Some of it is.
So I want to go back because you said you had a plan.
Yes.
You don't have to give away the secret sauce. You don't have to tell us anything that you don't want to. But I am curious what the election process, trying to get elected, trying to get people to like you, essentially. I know that's a very generic way to look at it, but
it's like middle school.
Yeah. What does that, when you sit down to do this for the first time, where do you even start to come up with a plan for that?
Well, as noted, I ran a software company, so I'm a numbers guy and a geek. So the plan was based on numbers. So I downloaded 20 years worth of voter data for Lycoming and Union County, squeezed that down to constituents that come out and vote every single time. The people that vote once every 5 years, or let's say that, Jeff, you vote every November. And a lot of people only vote in November, but don't come out for the primary. I don't want to say I don't care about those people, but to get elected, I need the people that come out every May. So again, I wrote the software to say, okay, who comes out every May? There's 65,000 constituents, but only about 8,000 come out, Republicans, and vote. So I had to focus on these 8,000 folks. And then from that, I wrote some software starting a year and a half ago, even before I told anybody that I was going to run for office, that would look at those 8,000 and look at the age groups and start sending Facebook requests out each day, about a dozen or so, over the course of a year, 15 months. So I built a database of Facebook friends, Republican voting Facebook friends.
So this wasn't your page. This was your own personal
This is my
account.
software, yeah.
Awesome.
So that, so I added like 4,000 Facebook Republican voting friends. So I could get my message out to them for free, right? Yeah. No cost at all. Because when I decided to run, I had a small budget. I wasn't going to go over it no matter what. And then I would take that data, run some logistics on it and say, as you recall, 2 years ago, you could start doing the mail-in voting, right? No excuse. You can do a mail-in voting. So I took the database and who has done mail-in voting 4 times in a row, primary and general for the last, and there were 493 of those people. So I went and knocked on those 493 doors in the 83rd district before they got the mail-in voting in April, so that I personally made a connection to those 493. And I did win the mail-in voting segment of that. So from there, a groundwork. I created an amazing team of volunteers that were on my committee. Absolutely amazing. I mean, I think Ms. Kaufman again had the political team, and she might have had the powerhouses from Harrisburg or DC. I just stayed local with everything, and I can drop names of who they were, but they were hardworking, blue collar and white collar, both combinations. So the team was fascinating.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you're getting compliments here. Smartest, kindest, and most ethical person. Oh, that's Jeff. That wasn't you. Sorry.
Yes.
So what do you
Can I real quick?
You go while I try to word this.
Yeah, because I mean the most fascinating part to me, and I'm totally generalizing Republicans over the last 2 years, but I love the idea of a Republican, instead of complaining about mail-in voting, taking it to their advantage.
It's the law.
And actually figuring out a way. And like, I know who's going to do the mail-in voting. I'm going to go to their house and actually reach out to them.
Right.
Your idea, somebody else, was that, because that to me is absolutely ingenious when you look at the landscape over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I can't take credit. I mean, the whole subcommittee that I had, we would meet once a week and throw ideas around. And again, none of these ever ran for office. None of my committee, none of them ever helped run a political campaign.
Yeah.
So it was, I think, the way they connected to regular people, like, well, if I got that in the mail and it was negative, I wouldn't like it. So when we go to we had three objectives when we started: not to send out one negative ad, none. No matter what she or Jeff would come at me with, nope, don't respond with a negative ad. Just don't. People are tired of that. Does it work? It still works. Negative ads work. They do, but we weren't going to do it. We were not going to take a nickel from any lobbyist or a PAC or super PAC or special interest group or corporation. Nothing. We're not going to be influenced by them. And we have a budget. and we're going to stay within that budget no matter what. So when people ask, well, why didn't you respond to her lie or negative ad about this? Well, we had a budget. We couldn't just go get a radio ad for $8,000. So the response was knock on those doors. So the people that we thought she influenced, go knock on those doors. Go to Montgomery, go to Brady Township, go to Clinton Township, go to White Deer Township. So.
But what makes you fascinating is you could figure out how to get to those doors, because most candidates would need a ton of money or know-how to do that.
Yeah.
And even though you didn't know the political realm, you very much knew how to figure out which doors you needed to knock on.
Well, again, it
which
was
makes you fascinating.
the whole committee. So
Yes.
I wasn't just knocking on doors.
No,
We
I
had people
understand.
not only on
Yeah.
my committee, we had volunteers. We had 47, 48 volunteers that knocked on doors and that showed up at the polls 3 Tuesdays ago. 48 volunteers. So it was fascinating from the entire district.
All right. So now when we get into the meat and potatoes of it,
Yep.
do you? I've heard conflicting reports. I heard there was no polling, and then I also heard that there was a poll of somewhere that you were down like 18% going into election. So yours was seen as an upset. Had you heard those numbers?
I had heard 16%, but
Okay.
I had heard that 2 days before the election. I told nobody on my committee what that poll was because I didn't want them to think we had no
You didn't want to depress
chance at all. So yeah.
Because as we were talking before this, this was a highly contested position locally for a primary.
Mhm.
This was a weird primary season with what's going on with Oz and McCormick
Correct.
and yours. So I came up with this brilliant idea that we should have you and Ann on here live during the Midday Show.
Mhm.
And immediately, someone who knows way more than me said, she'll never come on. Now, I'm just saying we never ask. We never
Okay,
ask you.
right.
We never ask her. But they're like, because they expect to win and they have nothing to gain. They said, and this person that was telling me
Right.
this, that no, like Jamie would come on in a heartbeat.
Sure.
But the other side won't come on because you have nothing to gain. So one of the things about it, I'm not sure we have this naive aspect of like debates. There are no debates.
There were
didn't
no.
have a debate.
We had
because
asked a number of
both
times.
sides
but
would
right.
have to agree to it.
Correct.
It's not part of the process. Like, oh, these people are running their opponents.
Right.
They're going to debate it sometime. If one side says I don't need to, it's strategy.
Sure, it is.
And so anyway, so that was one of the things that fascinated me. The other part, as you just covered very well, about how no negative ads, not going over budget, things like that. Now that you win, and all these people, all these local Republican heavyweight elected officials endorsed your opponent, and your opponent lost.
Mhm.
Do you think that has kind of been a bucket of cold water for them to say, like, maybe my opinion isn't, my people didn't listen to me?
I don't know. You could look at that at the state level. You could look at it everywhere. Part of my job now is to bring the party together, get ready for November. Again, I don't have an opponent, but help the party win other elections. So, I congratulated Miss Kaufman. She's phenomenal. She's got a bright future. So, part of my job is to get with her and her family's. I knew her family. I knew her grandparents, wonderful family from the Nippenose Valley also. So no ill will whatsoever toward her campaign. They did what they
you guys
did.
are probably related.
So,
Then,
well, that's
sorry.
a little further up the road. But, yeah, no ill will. So my part of my job is let's unite and let's march forward to November.
So he was with you. You were there.
I was there.
Where was your?
Yeah, there were a few uninvited
I
guests.
hate calling.
that
I
showed
hate
up.
calling it.
I crashed it.
I don't
We
want to.
crashed.
I don't want to call it a party, but it was.
Yeah, it was a
essentially
watch party.
a
You don't know
watch
if you're going to
party,
win.
right.
I mean, our belief was it was going to be a nail biter, be very, very
Sure.
close. Though the polls showed otherwise. So it's a watch party. It was at the Bridge Restaurant
Okay.
in South Williamsport.
So the moment that politicians just never talk about this moment. Obviously, you win, and there's a euphoria, and there's this moment of everything that you've worked towards, and everything else. There also has to be a moment of reflection of like, oh, we're now doing this.
Mhm.
We won.
Yeah,
Like a
it's very
flip-
surreal.
Yes,
Absolutely.
so a flip must switch. Did you have a moment where all of a sudden it went from the euphoria of pulling off what you had hoped to pull off to all of a sudden like, what do I do?
What did I get
now?
myself
Yeah,
into?
Yeah.
No,
Did you ever
hold
have
on.
that moment?
I can answer this. What do I do tomorrow was mow grass.
Mow grass.
Tell me that.
Yes. And I think that part of the attitude of our team was we're going to work as hard as we possibly can. And whether you're a little league player or you own your business, you work as hard as you can. and you don't always win, right? You go to an all-star game and you prepared, and the other team maybe had a better day. And if we lost, I told Mark that night.
Jeff coaches a loyal side. They don't know much about losing. All they do is
if I lost, I'd grass to mow, and if I won, I'd grass to mow. And I did mow grass the next day. So I don't know if it was euphoria. Really, it was okay. Good for us. I don't want to downplay it.
No.
Good for us. We worked as hard as we could. We came out
did the flip switch
on top. And after that, it's only been a few weeks, so a little of it is still sinking in, but I've been busy almost every day meeting other current state representatives, picking their brains. I mean, I want to get there when I get sworn in, and the next day I want to be writing House bills. I want to be working. It's only a 2-year term, so you can't learn stuff for the first year and then start the second. You got to be prepared when you go in.
So you obviously go in with a hopeful. There, obviously on each side, there are extremists who are in society and also elected. You are not. And so you obviously go in with this optimistic that you can, for your little contribution, can bring a different attitude and more of a congenial, like we all need to figure this out together.
Sure.
Have you, in talking with other people, other
State
representatives
reps,
around the state, have you been encouraged or discouraged?
What I would say to parlay that as I knocked on doors during 6 months or whatever it was, and you're exactly right, Mark. Most of the people, I believe, I mean, look, you guys are right next to each other.
Why don't you ever say you're exactly right?
You're Republican and Democrat. I find like 75, 80% of us can work together. And the doors I knocked on there, just can't you guys work together? Now there's 10% extremists on each side. And I think that's probably the case with the House of Representatives. There's 203 of us. And I think there's probably 10% crazies on the right and 10% crazies on the left. I've met 1 or 2 of them already. But most of us want to work together, and we can get some legislation written. We can get some House bills passed. And what's great about this group coming in, we don't know the numbers for sure yet because we still have to get through November, but it looks like there may be 20 to 30 freshmen, 20 to 30 out of 203. So 10 to 15% new faces. And that was sort of my campaign. Let's get business people in office. Let's get new people in office, people that have ran successfully, not career politicians. So I'm excited to join the group of fresh. I haven't been a freshman in like 45 years. So I'm excited to get there and get to work.
If you don't mind, just kind of dive into the politics, I guess, because one of the things that I'm fascinated by reading about you and then finally meeting you today, most younger Republicans that I'm around, most of us are socially centered, but then every other aspect we're conservative.
Sure.
And that separates us from kind of the older Republican or the older generation Republican. However, though, you seem to fall more into the younger. Do you feel that way? Like you tend to have more in common with a younger Republican than an older Republican? Or not so
and
much?
I think part of that might be having a diverse family and having 6 kids. Mm-hmm. And I coached for 30 years. So part of my team to go knock on doors and working the polls were a bunch of 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds. I'm around 20-some-year-old kids all the time, and software also. I will say
that's the stuff that helps you do things on the
well, I was just thinking the young people hang around them because they're like, "Hey, can you buy dinner?"
Yeah, that's part of it.
Like, I guess.
So we're gonna work on that at the State House with the per diem and see what that can be used for. But to go way back, I mean, we barely won. We won by 100 and some votes out of 8,000. So there's 100 different factors that I could point to, more than 100, to say that's what won us. That guy going around putting up yard signs, that woman that knocked on doors. I mean, my strategy that day was to show up in Union County because that's new to the 83rd. So every 10 years, they did the redistricting. So we now have 2 parts, 2 townships, White Deer Township and Gregg Township in Union County. So we had to, obviously, I've been in South Williamsport for 40 years. We were going to do well there. If we couldn't win South Williamsport, shame on me. Right. So the numbers had to be.
Al Gore lost presidency.
Right. So yeah, that's exactly right. Tennessee. So so we had to win about 70% there with her backing of Mr. Keller and everybody else. She was going to win, and she won everywhere else. If you look at Loyalsock, she won. Williamsport, she won. Montgomery, she won. Union County, she won. I won South Williamsport, but by a landslide in South Williamsport. and she barely, well, like Williamsport was 51-49.
Right.
So we cut our losses as much as we could everywhere else, and the strategy worked out. But so I showed up in Union County where nobody knew me at all. And currently they're in the 84th district. The redistricting come November puts them in the 83rd. So that's where I showed up election day, and I stopped each person as they were coming in the poll. So anybody that ever says being at the polls doesn't help, people have their mind made up, not true at all. So the precinct that I was at turned a lot of votes. So that was one of those 100 things. So.
Did you hand out like Tootsie Rolls like you're in elementary school?
No, I don't think you're allowed to do
You're
that.
not allowed, you can't do that?
George just started that.
No, that's true. You can't even give out
not
water.
even water.
No,
Exactly.
give
Not
out
even
water.
water. But to go to your question,
I think
Jeff,
this person's dying. Well, then, tough luck.
I mean, I think you're sort of asking me if I'm a moderate.
Not so much that you're a moderate. I think it's.
Well, you are. In a lot,
Well,
maybe not in all ways, but in some ways.
Yeah.
I don't think it's so much moderate. I would say that I think what's unique about you compared to other people that I have met in your situation, there's usually the older party and the younger party. And I like when I listen to you talk and I listen to your story, you seem to fall into the younger Republican than the
I
older
would
one.
answer that with this. And this question was asked a lot as I was campaigning. And we'll just touch on LGBT. I believe any two people have the right to pursue their own happiness together, no matter who they are, you know? So to that degree, if that defines who I am in that realm, yes. So, and that is different from the older Republicans.
Oh, absolutely. But even I guess just social, like we talk a lot on here about, I guess, social issues. And we talk about how people respond to news and how people respond to media and how they respond to even just circumstances and things happening in the world. And a lot of times what we've recognized is, like you said, 10% way over here, and 10%. And so how do you find those people that are, I don't want to say balanced, but how do you find those people that aren't all the way to the 10%?
Well, those 10% are so loud.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's what makes it.
I was thrown off porches. I was told to get out before I even got out of my car. There are,
sure.
Yes.
And I only went to Republican households.
Well, we just discussed this maybe a week ago, that's one of the issues, that there are certainly people on the left who support the Second Amendment. I support the Second Amendment.
Sure.
Now, whether there needs to be, limitations to guns, I think is certainly the hot button topic, and there can be some common sense to it. But there are Democrats that support the Second Amendment. There are Republicans that support Roe v. Wade.
Right.
There are Republicans that support same-sex marriage, and that there are so many of these people out there, but they right now they have no voice.
Yeah, they get drowned out.
Yes,
they do. And also what comes into play, Mark, is unfortunately money, right? So when again, I took no money, and the day after, Wednesday comes, you wake up, you mow the grass, and then the phone starts ringing from people wanting to give you money because you're the presumptive nominee. And I won't mention what groups, but I'm just steadfastly say, thank you very much for calling, not taking any money. Listen, I'll talk to you. So I'll talk to you. And if I like what you say, yeah, you've got my vote. It's
because
that simple.
they're
I don't
trying
need
to
to
buy
pay
your vote.
Right. They are to a degree, and depending on who you talk to, other state reps or county commissioners, they have a different flavor, a different opinion. Like, they're not really trying to buy your vote. They just want a seat at the table. Well, you have a seat at the table. We all do. Every constituent, you guys have a seat. So whether you're CEO of something or you're mopping the floors, you should have the same voice to come to my office. So yeah, so money comes into play. Pennsylvania is one of the worst. It really is one of the worst. There's no cap. Mark, if you want to give me $2 million when I run in 2 years, you could do that.
I would love to give you $2 million, but someone needs to give it to me first.
We talked one day. We were blown away by the Oz McCormick numbers.
Yeah,
it was
$60 million.
It's stunning.
It is, and all in negative ads.
Well, and
which is
this is the other part too. Now it's done.
Right.
Like, so that money, it's just gone. Like, it didn't behove anybody. Like, it didn't improve anybody's life. Like, it's.
Yep. What I've said to, and I don't know legally if I can do this, but the last group packed and knocked on my door and they offered $10,000. I said, no, but you can donate that. I'm going to come up with a list of nonprofits in my district, and you can donate that. Let's say it's the Loyalsock Township Fire Department, or the Du Bois Town Fire Department, or White Deer Fire Department. So I asked the guy who was from a PAC, I said, I'm not taking the money, but would you donate it to Loyalsock Township Fire Department? He had no answer because nobody's ever asked me that. Well, find out and get back to me. They have to give it away. They're going to give it away.
Have so much
so
money.
yeah, you're right. That's a good point. So we'll go down to Brady Township, where we did great. So I have a lot to navigate. I'm new to this. Let's be real. I'm very
What are
green.
some of the things you're like? I'm sure there's things you're excited about. There's things
Sure.
you're nervous about. What are some of those?
I mean, there's some
things?
big things that I want to get accomplished, and I might get squashed trying those. But one would be independent voters can't vote in the primary in Pennsylvania. That's voter suppression. It is. In 43 states, you can vote in the primary no matter who you are.
Oh, really?
43.
We're
We're
one of
7, 6 or 7 that does not allow independence.
Gary and I were just talking about that.
Wow.
Like a week ago.
So
he can't vote in the primary.
Yep. And one of the mailers against me that came out said I left the party. And I did several years ago to become an independent. I'd never been a Democrat, no offense to you and your people in my life, but I was an independent for a few months, but irked that I couldn't vote in the primary. So I came back, and I don't say I left the party. I say the party left me at that point. But so for a brief period, I was an independent. So that's a big thing, right? That what I want to get through the House and through the Senate is to get independent voters to be allowed to vote.
Do you know how many people are registered independent in the state?
1.2 million. And it's the fastest growing by 10%. It's the fastest growing party, non-affiliated party. And even locally, you'd have to check with voter services, but I think there's over 10,000 in district in our county. I think check with Forrest Lehman on that, but I think it's over 10,000. And that tells you that people are tired of both parties.
Yep.
Right? They're leaving both parties and flocking to the middle.
Well, we talked about this even probably before we were here. We think what Trump represented the most when he won it wasn't, I mean, there's aspects with Obama and there's aspects with Hillary, but the biggest thing was people are sick of politicians.
Right.
And they wanted a guy, and because he was well known and because it made a difference. He was already a celebrity, but he wasn't a lifetime politician.
Yep.
And people are sick of politicians.
Well, that's in part why I think one of those 100 factors of why I won.
Did well.
I was a business person, employed people, a community volunteer. So yeah. So
were you a good Little League coach?
Oh my! If you ask the kids, absolutely terrible. So, yeah.
What do they know?
So
I ask, what do the kids know? I ask that all the time.
It is. What? Anything else off the top of your head? This is
as we talked about, is there any other big things you want to do?
Yes, absolutely. And this is sort of center also for a Republican. One of the 5 things I campaigned on. Well, one is energy. So hard Republican on that. Drill, baby, drill. So I fit the Republican really well on that. I believe we really need to expand drilling, especially northern Lycoming County, which is the 84th district.
I've
moving,
been there before.
moving toward the middle, if you will. And I'm a fiscal conservative. I don't believe spend. But I am a big proponent of getting mental health services starting in first grade in all 500 school districts in the Pennsylvania. We need mental health in the schools big time. And we can't wait a couple years to do it. So hit the ground running.
Are they trying with that? Are you hopping on something that's trying? Or
I think so. I think both sides are moving quickly on that. I mean, it's a different world than even 10 years ago. The mental health component has to be hit head on, and we got to move quickly on it.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was just having a conversation. This may have even been yesterday. It was recently. And someone said to me that either this person or their child is in therapy because there'd been a family crisis thing and the statement made to me was it's $255 an hour and they don't take insurance. And you wonder why there's mental health issues in America.
Yeah, the red tape is insane and the cost is insane. That needs cleaned up. Sorry to interrupt you, Mark.
No,
but that was one of the other 5 things is the red tape in Harrisburg on everything. Even drilling. What takes 3 months to do outside of Austin, Texas, takes 3 years to do in Harrisburg. So, I mean, we can blame Biden and we can blame Washington. But again, if you look at what gets done in Texas and what gets done in Pennsylvania, we're slow. We're very, very slow for the energy. I mean, oil was discovered where? I'll ask you guys, who wins?
Oil was discovered. I'm guessing Pennsylvania.
Yes.
See how I use my context?
Good job.
That was good.
Quaker State.
Titusville. Quaker State. So we have oil. It then disappeared from 150 years ago. But we have more red tape than we do oil. Let's put it natural gas. So
there's 2 things just to touch on that. Someone, I forget who said this. It was just the other day. But they said when it comes to actually getting stuff done, we're closer to California than Texas.
Yeah.
So you nailed that right on the head. The other thing you brought up about drilling up north and the fracking and everything else, one of my, and I'm telling you this because it's not every day I get to sit down with someone that's going to be a state representative. One of the things that I've noticed up north, and we don't get to, our voices get drowned up there.
Yep.
And it happens. One of the things is they are back. There's more people up there. There's more water trucks. There's more infrastructure going on right now up there than probably the last 3 years or so.
Right.
What's happening though is the infrastructure up there is dying. And what I mean, like the roads are destroyed.
Yep.
My understanding is it's getting taxed. It's going down to Harrisburg, and then none of it comes back up to actually improve the infrastructure that's getting destroyed.
Well, it's not quite accurate.
Okay,
But, I mean, we have the
I would love
Act
to hear what it
13
is.
fund, which has been here for years, from probably 10, 11 years ago, where, and I'd have to check with Senator Yaw on this, who I've never met. So I have a lot of people to meet.
It'll
But
happen.
I believe that, could be wrong, 60% or 60% of that Act 13 dollars does stay here. And we've benefited in the community from that. The county commissioners have done a fabulous job using that for example, for us.
Look at him sucking up.
Exactly. 2 out of 3 of them have done a phenomenal job.
There we go.
No,
There we
all
go.
3 of them. I think we have a great set of commissioners. I really do. And I think a lot gets done. And I think all 3 of them gel together at certain times. And using that Act 13 funding, they've helped the whole community. They have a tough job. You know, we got a levee system needs rebuilt. We got a lot of things going on. We need infrastructure, not roads, but we need water.
Yeah.
We need broadband. We need all sorts of things.
Because I think most people are pro drill. I think there's a financial benefit, obviously, for the people that were fortunate enough.
Yeah, the people
to
that
sign
put
a
gas in their car today
Yes.
are probably pro drilling.
Yes.
You know?
But I think it's one of the side effects that nobody realizes unless you're up there.
Right.
And unless you're up north of Lycoming County and you're seeing what it's doing. I mean, we have some roads and bridges that look like, 10 years ago, they didn't look like that.
Well, again,
And
the red tape to get a bridge replaced
Yep.
Out your way, you know, it's insane that it takes years to replace a bridge. I would say talk to your township supervisor and start there though, or wait till November and talk to your state rep. So
yeah, we're gonna figure out something though, because see, to me, like it's not for like it's a shell issue. You know? It's like these companies are coming in and their wear and tear on the infrastructure around them is what's really
right.
And then the tax dollars aren't there because it's not a large town, it's not a large community.
Do you know what township you're in? Mark, does he know what township he lives in?
I do know what township I'm in. I'm in Hamilton Township.
Okay, I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, you're fine.
So you're not.
It took him like 30 seconds to come
No,
up
I
with
had
that.
to. I think it's Hamilton Township.
Alexander
is where
Hamilton?
is my parents' house.
Okay, fair enough.
What's your township?
I live in the borough. I don't live in a township.
Cool.
You're not throwing away your shot?
No, I'm not. I actually do think it's Hamilton Township, and I think it's a township. I don't think it's Blossburg Borough. I think it's Hamilton Township.
Fair enough.
Because
Is
our
Blossburg a
electricity,
borough?
because you'll get a kick out of this. Our old Southwest Road, our electricity would go out, but all of the towns would still be on.
Yep.
And I think that's because we were a different.
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
Because the squirrel got
but
tired.
to
From
answer
running.
your question, yeah, we need a lot of infrastructure, better infrastructure, and we need roads and bridges fixed. I mean, we have the second highest gas tax in the nation, Pennsylvania. So I think it's 58.5 cents of every time you put a gallon of gas, 58.5 cents of that goes right to Harrisburg immediately. Second highest, only behind California. And at times we leapfrog them. So you would think we would have the second best roads and bridges. And we don't even have the
Not
top
even close.
40 roads and bridges. So again, where does that money go? Where's the casino money go? You know, where's the lottery money go?
Not Blossburg.
Not Blossburg.
I was thinking
So I
it
think it all goes
to
to
the people in the casino that are winning big.
Yeah.
so I have a lot of numbers. I have a lot to delve into. I'm anxious to get there and to get started. So.
This is way back.
Sure.
As we backtrack, when you decide, because you said you have 6 kids, how old is the youngest?
17,
Okay, and how old is the oldest?
33.
Okay, so when you said I'm running,
Mhm.
I'm sure 6 people jumped up and down.
In a good way? No,
That's what. Yeah.
not at all. No, not at all.
I
Are
mean,
you nuts,
Were
Dad?
they
Are you
were they
insane,
all
Dad?
that? Were there some that were like, go for it? Did it
One
cover the
out of
spectrum?
6.
1 out of 6.
One
said
out of
go
6
for it.
is yes. This is great.
Okay.
5 out of 6 took me to dinner and said, "Are you nuts? You're insane. You know, are you healthy enough to do this? Why would you do this? You're going to be an umpire that everybody hates." So listen, I'm in the honeymoon period, but you know it's going to end very
Right.
soon. Like the second Tuesday in November, it'll be gone.
Have they
So-
all come around?
Yeah, to
I mean,
one
well,
degree
even
or
now
another.
that you won, they're
Yeah.
like, hey, great, that's cool. You want be like going
They're kids,
into a
you know.
week before.
They have fortunately much bigger interest than what their dad's doing. So yes, they're
Amen.
yes.
I know that goes.
So
But because I'm not surprised because I've actually heard of people who had thought about running, and the kids were like, no.
Yep.
And the people were like, oh, okay, my family is so against it that.
Well, I'm betting
not gonna
half
do
of them said you can't win. So, like, yeah, go do it for a couple months and
Who your
come
kids?
back to reality.
Your
Yes.
kids. That's so you
but
can
yeah,
always have that.
my kids, it's not a political family. Obviously, I never ran for politics
Right.
before. So my kids are pretty diverse of what they do. One's a journalist in San Diego. One's in the military. One's still in school. A couple in college. One in business. One's a musician. So they have their own lives and their own interests. And thankfully, I don't see any of my kids ever running for any office at all.
But it's clear now which one you love the most.
Oh, that one was
Was the
already the one I
one
loved
who
the most.
was-
You may throw a name out, or maybe
Well,
I better not.
you
Because
know,
trust me, none of my kids are watching this. So I don't say.
that's true. That's true. I actually, just to tell a stupid little story, you know who John Feinstein is, the writer, right? Do you know John
Sure.
Feinstein?
Yeah.
He wrote a book about my brother and Tom Glavine, and so he
Mm-hmm.
came to Montoursville and interviewed him, and he's telling these stories about his kid. He had a 15 or 16-year-old, and how he embarrassed his kid, and his kid was like, "Dad, what are you doing?" And I said to him, I said, doesn't your kid know who you are? Because John Feinstein is renowned. And he said, it's worse than that. He knows damn well who I am, and he's not the least bit impressed.
Exactly.
I was like,
well, that's funny.
and at the time, I had little kids, and I did not appreciate that.
Now you do. Well, right before the election, Mark, like 2 days before, my girlfriend and I went out to eat at Chef Lejeune, Penn College. Mm-hmm. Phenomenal place. And I have my button on, right? Because I got to wear it everywhere. Vote for Jamie Flick. It's 2 days to go. I have to be pompous, and I have to get out there in the community. To that point, nobody had ever asked to get a picture with me, not even the kids. So the Chef Mike, comes out, and he says, "Hey, you're Jamie Flick. You're running for office. Can I get a picture with you?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." First picture ever. So we stand up. My girlfriend snaps the picture, and there's an adjacent table of 8 women, and they say, "Can we get a picture?" And I said, "Absolutely." They're like, no, with the Chef. So I just sunk back down into my seat, and I don't think I've had a picture taken with anybody since then. So
that's a great story.
I thought I knew a lot of people when I decided to run, and once you look at the voter rolls, you don't know anybody. So it's a large district. So,
well, like I said, of all the aspects that you're not a typical, and like you're not a typical Republican. The Democratic Party needs people who aren't typical Democrats. I am waiting, especially here. I think there's hope. I am waiting for the Democrat to stand up and say, I am pro Second Amendment.
Right.
And, just like I'm waiting for a Republican to stand up and say, I am, pro life or pro choice or whatever.
Pro common sense is what both sides need to do.
Right. But just that, and the no negative ads, and you didn't go over your budget. And it's just, I hope, like, I don't know what you're going to be able to do because you're one of, what'd you say, 203, assuming you win in November. You'll be one of 203. But what I think maybe your bigger lasting influence will be is there will be other people like you who say, I can win too. Mm-hmm. He won. He's not.
Absolutely. People are saying that. My God, if Jamie Flick can win, I can win. Yes, you're exactly right. Everybody's saying that.
And in local government, that can really help because local government, your vote matters so much more in local government, and your life is affected so much by local government. And that's where I think you have maybe opened some people. There have to be a dozen or so people who know your story, mm-hmm. who are like, maybe I could win, or talking someone else into running who they're like, you would be good at this. And you could win too because Jamie won. You're
right, Mark. And I think it was Tip O'Neill with Reagan that said all politics are local. So it is more critical to have locally. That affects you more than you think, than who the president is,
Absolutely.
Who's your county commissioner, who's your township supervisor, who's your state rep. The local voices matter more than the national, I believe.
They matter a lot.
You can control it more, and you can, persuade people, and hopefully you can meet in the middle. So looking forward to it very much.
So you'll be in Harrisburg. How much? How does that
work? I'm just learning all that information. So if I win in November, I start December 1st, and then I got sworn in January. So you get your feet wet, you get your office. I can set up my office anywhere in the district I want. So I'm actually meeting with my liaison tomorrow to start discussing where the office space will be, who I will hire, whether I retain.
We have a couch.
Absolutely, that could be it.
My first thought was
So-
if you put it right by Dairy Queen in South, you will.
Yeah,
see
you're
everyone.
right. The number of cars that go through there. So yeah, I have a lot to do and a lot to learn. So
Are you? I mean, I can't believe you're still brimming with excitement. I would guess.
I still got 6 kids that tell me what to do. I still mow grass. So it's still a little surreal, but there's so much work to get done that every other day I'm meeting a different state rep. Like I said earlier, I want to hit the ground running. So I've been to Luzerne County. Tomorrow I'm going up to Tunkhannock to meet with state reps that are probably going to win, that are freshmen. The day after, I'm going down to Harrisburg to meet with state reps. I have worked on some House bills in the past as a private industry. So I worked in 61 of the 67 counties. So I'm somewhat familiar with how the process works. So I'm going to meet with some lawmakers down there of current House bills that have to do with mental health. And sadly, they take so long to get into law that they'll still be sitting there when I take office. So meet with some delegations and constituents and keep marching forward.
And you said before we went on the air that if O'Malley's team loses today, you will advocate for his firing.
Absolutely. He'll be gone in a heartbeat. He'll be House.
Won't even give him a bus ride home.
Right. House Bill 101. He'll be.
Do you know where they're at today? Who do they play?
They're in Elm Park, I believe.
Oh, are they here?
I think they're the top seed, and I think the boys from South Side travel up your way to Wilkes-Barre or Scranton or somewhere up that way.
I think they are. I think Montoursville's at Wilkes, and I think South is at
But
Scranton.
if you look at the 83rd district, and I didn't even say what that's made up of, but it's Williamsport and Loyalsock, and then South Williamsport and that whole surrounding area, then Montgomery and that whole of Washington Township, Clinton Township, Brady Township, and then down into Union, almost all the way down to Lewisburg. And if you look, and the 84th, which of course is Montoursville, Jersey Shore, and I don't want to get sidetracked on sports, but the number of teams we have playing today and tomorrow, and the athletes that have come out of this whole district, these 2 districts are phenomenal. And the academics, we've done very well. I mean, just Jeff should be in the Hall of Fame for something, right?
No, shots taken.
Shots.
He has the northern tier record for career attempts from the field.
You think so?
Yeah, but they never measure that. How many points did you ever go home and your mom and dad say, "How many shots did you take?" No, they say, "How many points did you have?"
They said, "How many points did you have?"
That's the beauty of basketball.
My mom was really big on free throws. I used to get. This is not to make this about me. My 15-second story. I was like a freshman, and very early in the season, I was fortunate to play varsity. I had an absurd game. I think I had 36 points, and I was Michael Jordan.
Absolutely.
And my mom could not stop talking about these 2 free throws I missed at the end of the game. Just couldn't just how could you
bring it back down there?
Now I love my mother to death.
Sure.
She was my number 1 fan by far. But I'll never forget that. So for me, it's always been free throws. Parents can't understand how you miss. Don't you practice free throws? It's like, yes, we practice free throws. But
so here, you're a sports guy. How many points did you have in high school? And don't pretend you don't know. Tell me how many points.
I have to think for a second. It was 1555.
That's
so
amazing.
A guy that has 1555. How many shots do you think he had? And how many assists do you think he had? Because he's going to.
Well, assist, I'll go with single digits for assists.
How many assists did you have?
Over 700.
See, that mathematically it doesn't work out.
I have newspaper.
It doesn't work out.
I have the articles.
You cannot have 700.
So you remember Kyle Datras? Do you remember Kyle Datras?
I'm sure.
So Kyle's going to see this. Kyle apparently owns the state record for assists, and I will dispute this. Yeah, I think he has over 800. I think he ended with, and I will dispute this because I have shown him newspaper articles going into my senior year that said I had 700 assists going into my senior year. So there's no way I held the record. There's no way Kyle holds. Somebody had to have 1,000 assists.
Well, I'll give you my quick basketball story, if I may.
Yeah, please.
So, and I wrestled at Jersey Shore. Jersey Shore, you didn't.
Somebody that played with Billy Owens, point guard, probably had 2,000 assists. He's like, Billy, score.
So I have a goddaughter. Her name's Jamie, named after me. Jamie Steer from South Williamsport. So in 8th grade, I said, Jamie, you're a tall girl. You should go out for basketball. She goes, no, I don't think so, Uncle Jamie. I'm not going out. I said, no, you need to. I'll incentivize it. I'll give you $1 every time you score a point. Well, she didn't know anything about basketball. She went out in 9th grade. Who became a 1,000-point scorer? Jamie Steer. So at graduation, the check was whatever it was,
Isn't that
$1,200.
Doesn't she lose her amateur status?
But I tried to do a little bit what your mom did. By the time she was a junior, I said, "All right, Jamie, you're going to get 1,000 points. I'm going to deduct $1 every time you miss a free throw."
There you go.
But she was really good at free throws.
The name free throw has completely ruined, because now you should just make it. You should never miss. But the best free throw shooters in the world don't shoot 9. They miss 1 out of every 10. So I don't know. The free throw is him and I argue. Not argue, but we have good discussions about it.
I just told that story. I just told the free throw story very recently. I might have been yesterday too. We talk a lot about basketball.
Yeah.
Because now
Sure.
he knows a lot about basketball and I'm like the rookie coach. And then I have totally taken his free throw philosophy to my team. And like everything I say about free throws, it's like just a regurgitation of it. Because the first time he explained like his thought process, because I'll come in, I like have a question today. What do you guys do about free throws? And he's like, here's my philosophy on free throws. And he gives me this 45-second rundown. And I was like, So I've just taken it. It's all everything that we do at Matoursville now about free throws is what came from here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that's true. That is true. Everything I say about free throws is just a regurgitation of you.
Appreciate that.
Except I don't quote any of your assist statistics because I think they're all lies. You can't score.
You can tell he's a very giving person, or he wouldn't have had all those assists. So
that's what
I want to see. I want to see video evidence of any of these assists.
So the school record was my mom was a twin. She had a twin brother, Dennis Bagacic, who actually ended up living in the Williamsburg.
Okay.
Dennis scored 1,700 something. So I missed his record by 200 points. And his whole thing was he didn't have a 3-point line. And my whole thing to him was I was a point guard.
Right.
So like you never passed the ball.
Right.
But like I had so that's kind of so you don't.
Well, that's the joke with Zimmer.
Well, I think we get Kyle on the show, and
that would
Mark, you can sit between the two. And
can I also have one other thing about Kyle? I'm the only person to ever strike him out in a wiffle ball. Which he will contest. He will say that it didn't happen. I struck out Kyle Datris in a wiffle ball game.
Windy day?
Who cares? It happened. It happens.
With the lights out?
That's it happens.
Was he awake?
He does. Thank you so much for coming on.
My
Is there
pleasure.
anything that you would like to plug? Is there anything you'd like people to know before
I will say, like right now, I'm just looking at committees. I'm still learning. So as soon as I get there, I will be assigned to 4 committees, and that's where you can really get some things done. So one of them will be children and youth, human services, maybe judicial, and maybe the energy sector. So the things I ran on are the committees I'm trying to get on in Harrisburg. And I'll have a very open door policy. I love the people of the 83rd, the 84th. We'll work together. And I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
No, it was awesome.
I have one more stupid question.
Sure.
This has nothing. So you said severe stroke, major stroke, whatever it was. How? Like I would have no idea unless you told me.
Well, if we went out and played hoops, you would see. I actually tried to play catch at a picnic on Sunday, just throwing the ball, and that it was noticeable.
How long did it take you to be like good as new?
I did speech therapy right out of the gates, and I still mumble now.
Okay.
I did occupational therapy and I did physical therapy. I would say it took about 9 months of hard 10,000 steps a day. My kids were phenomenal. My girlfriend was phenomenal. The whole community. I'm fortunate enough to have a building where I was able to do my rehab in. UPMC was great. So the support was amazing. And, for those stroke victims out there, there's a path. It affects everybody a different way, but hard work. You got to put the hours in. So
nothing cements a relationship by the girlfriend thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm stuck with this guy now."
Yeah. So I got the will done right after that.
That's good. That's
good to go.
So 10,000 steps is no joke.
No, that's like I remember when I heard he had a stroke, and I've there was someone I won't mention names because I don't know if they want to broadcast, but there have been multiple people who said, I had like 2 years ago I had a stroke and just couldn't even tell. If you didn't tell me, I would never know.
Yeah.
So it is. It's amazing what they can do with medicine.
I'll be using it to my benefit in Harrisburg. Like, why'd you vote that way?
Absolutely.
Mental breakdown. That's stroke.
If what's his name wins, even though he's on the other side, you can be like, "Hey, look at us. We have a bond."
Right, fair enough. Well, it'll be interesting to watch. Not my race, but the state race.
That's going to be fascinating. Absolutely.
With Oz and Fetterman.
It'll be nationwide.
Absolutely.
It'll be,
you think money was spent already? Wait till you see this money come.
We were just saying, Real Time with Bill Maher on HBO. We kind of keep tabs on it, and they never talk about state issues.
Mm-hmm.
they talked about
Pennsylvania
yeah. for like 5 minutes and mentioned almost every single candidate. So it's going to.
Even you.
Yeah,
they
even
did.
you, sure.
They said it because Bill Maher was coming to the Bridge Tavern and then
Right.
his flight
Right.
got canceled
I
or
know.
something.
Wow.
He just couldn't get in.
But we were saying to us that was a little bit of a measuring stick of kind of like we're going to be.
It is. I mean, it's obviously it's a critical state.
Yeah.
Always is, but more so this year than ever. So.
Thank you so
Good
much,
stuff.
Jamie.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news. Do not miss tomorrow's show. It's going to be
Tomorrow we're gonna have some more fun.
We're gonna have a lot of fun on tomorrow's show. Maybe even a little pizza.
You
Little
never
pizza
know.
on tomorrow's
You
show.
never know.
Maybe.
You never
Maybe.
know what's gonna happen.
We'll see. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. Thank you again to Jamie Flick for coming on.
Pleasure.
We will see you guys tomorrow. And I almost forgot that I have.